What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to version 1. Now today you join me out here for episode 1 of a mini-series I'm calling Celebrating Renaultsport, where we do just that. We get as many cars on the channel as physically possible and go out and hit some roads and enjoy them as they're supposed to be. So starting things off today with this absolute cherub, Phase 1 172 Clio. So before we get started on today's video, as per usual, smash a like rating on this video if you enjoy this sort of content. Hit that subscribe button if you're new and ring the bell notification to find your way back for any future content. You join me out here today for episode 1 of Celebrating Renaultsport. We remember exactly what Renaultsport wanted to do with the formula of all their RS models right from the beginning, and we're starting things off with this 172 Scarab Green Phase 1 Clio. Number 61 of 172 models just like this brought into the country. So inside the Clio is the naturally aspirated F4R engine, producing 172 horsepower in these, and later 182 in obviously the 182 model. This one has a couple of few subtle mods like an intake and exhaust. The thing is basically standard from this point, and I must add that the owner, Adam, is planning on doing loads of restoration mods to the car. So as he hasn't owned it very long, he gave me the keys to the car today and he said go out and enjoy it, and I'll do exactly just that. This is the first Phase 1 I've actually ever driven. If you guys don't know the difference between Phase 1 and Phase 2, it's basically what Renaultsport used to do. It's kind of like a mid-season refresh that Renaultsport used to do with all of their models, where they would change the front end of the car and basically keep the rear end exactly the same, and then change some interior mods as well. So there are parts of this that are very reminiscent to the 172 that I had of my own, like the wings and stuff are the same, but obviously different front bumper, headlights and stuff like that, bonnet. And then as we get into the interior, this actually features like a kind of grey sort of leather seat, and there's the door plaque as well, number 61 of 172 apparently brought into this country. The dashboard is completely different to the 172 as well, like the dials and everything like that. As mentioned, the car has a couple of little subtle mods which you can't obviously see. The stealth exhaust under here, which I actually had on my 172 Cup as well. Different tail lights on the Phase 1 as well to the Phase 2. As you may have seen already from the beauties beforehand, he stripped the back out. Now I don't know if he got it with it like this, I didn't actually ask him before he handed the keys over, but obviously that does add for a little bit more excitement, especially when you're driving, because you can hear the exhaust as it's basically here. I'm not going to bore you too much with statistics and figures. I know you guys are going to want to see me go out and get to driving this thing, and more importantly I want to drive this thing. So let's get down on the strip and get some sounds, some flybys, and then go out and get first impressions. So first impressions, like I say, very stripped back, very bare bones, but obviously the rear is stripped out, so it does feel a bit different. But just the noise, the NA noise, oh, it's been so long. This does have an induction kit on, so it does sound a bit more fruity on the rev range, but this thing is just, it feels really tiny as well after driving the Meg. And that NA. Sounds so good. Give it a second gear. Oh, I've missed that noise. Never gets old. A proper throaty sounding NA, just too much fun. Here comes the revs. Just smells of old car in here as well, like a 22-year-old car this now, and it still drives pretty well, still feels good. The thing that I think made these cars special as well is, obviously it's the same, this is the Renault formula of old. Keep them light, decent power plant, and you know, they're just out and out fun and handling, and the way that these cars move as well, cocking a wheel around every corner. They're just such fun little cars, they just got such magic to them. This was the alternative to the Type R. You know, when they brought out the EP3, this was Renault's basic, well, their sort of go at doing that kind of thing. 2 litre up front, front wheel drive, smallish hatch, high revving NA, you know, and like when I had my 172 at the Phase 2, it was just such a fun little car. Right to the moment I got rid of it, put a smile on my face, you know, just that NA rawness from the open filter, and it was just such a fun little car. The thing I love about the NAs as well is there's no load up time. So where like a turbo's got spool up or whatever, like this thing is just, you go down it, you get into the rev range, just straight on it. It just sounds so good. Oh, it brings back memories. I already wanted another Phase 2 anyway, and I think this has made me want one even more. Have it alongside the Meg would be perfect. Tell you one thing I don't miss, 5 speeds. Where I'm sat at 3,000 RPM now doing 70, you can do, it's not droney by no means, but it's just so much more overwhelming. Like if you had one more gear to go up now, you'd be able to cruise on like a motorway or an A road, like just much nicer, in much more comfort is what I'm trying to say. I can't believe I used to do 200 miles each way to go and see my now wife in this, because like even now I'm only doing 70 mile an hour, and like I say, because of the 5-speed, it's just and I would do this for like a 3.5 hour trip, and I don't know how I've done it honestly, because I think mine was easily as loud as this. Granted, it had rear seats, but it's the little things like that you forget when you've been in such a modern, everyday sort of daily car. You forget these little quirks of having an older car. Like I say, the aircon is like being clothed on, and the noise and the drone of obviously having a 5th gear instead of only having 5 gears instead of having 6 gears, stuff like that, just little quirks and stuff. But as a Sunday ripper and a weekend bit of fun, none of that will matter. None of it matters. But you can feel how playful it is under. If you give it a handful of input, then you'll feel it come round to the back. That noise is just too addictive, too good. I'm trying to stay informative, but at the same time I'm reminiscing massively. Gearbox is nice and notchy as well. Clutch is quite heavy, I remember that from mine. But this thing's done 108,000 miles and it still feels buttoned up, you know. It still feels really good. Like obviously, compared to the Meg's done 17,000 miles, it's a much bigger car, much heavier car. But this is so much more playful, like I say, with a big old input of the steering. You can feel the back end getting lighter and stuff. Like I did run that roundabout there, seeing as the way cars are getting heavier, more expensive, bigger, you know, more equipped, which is great, but at the same time they're a completely different formula, you know, like especially for Renault Sport. They've never been putting big engines in their cars, other than arguably the Clio V6. But the formula was very simple with Renault, and that's what made them so simple and so appealing to people, is that it was decent power plant, light, capable chassis, and just great handling overall. And the handling and everything else, as much as people go, you know, it would get smashed on a straight, and it absolutely would, but this thing is just the fun that you have in these kind of cars makes up for everything else that it doesn't have, and arguably you're going to have more fun in the corners than on the straights. I think as well with driving, especially these old cars, it's so important. That's why I think classics are so popular, because it's about how they make you feel, and there's such a great little way of, you know, going out for a blast on a Sunday and having some fun, like around some really cool back roads like this. It's just so good. Chassis as well, like I say, playful at the back. Oh, so good. a pretty clean example, I won't lie to you, but it's got the classic French sort of characteristics where there's rubber trim missing and stuff in little places and some fixings that need putting into place. But none of that matters when you're having so much fun you drive, genuinely. It's one of those things, especially when it's your like Sunday run around and it's not your full-time daily, then you can just, none of those things matter, because when you get in it and you drive it and you just do exactly what it's used for, like this, it's just so much fun. After spending an hour or so, well, about an hour and a half now with the car, it's like I say, it's reigniting that sort of magic that these old cars are about. Like I say, don't get me wrong, it's a tin can, you know, and it's not exceptionally fast, but like it's just so much fun, and that is what I feel like is missing in modern cars. Don't get me wrong, the Meg is really fun to drive because it's so capable and so planted, and it is, you know, much faster than this, but this, you can use it everywhere. You can use that power everywhere. You know, you don't got to worry about wheel spin, none of that. You can just go flat out everywhere, and it's just so much fun, and it's so easy to enjoy, especially if you enjoy driving. You know, if you enjoy primarily just driving cars like this, it's just the noise and everything about it, you know, hitting some nice back roads with a Renault Sport. What more could you ask for? There's even a certain smell that old cars have, you know, the, you know, 22-year-old sort of interior, like, it just brings back so many memories, even being a kid, you know, being in older cars, you know, that my parents have and stuff. It just, all of it is just a huge nostalgia trip, but at the same time such an enjoyable experience, you know, being able to feel this little car in its absolute prime, and still 22 years on is still just so much fun. This is arguably what driving is all about. You know, when people say, oh, my car's 400 horsepower, 500, you know, especially when people are pushing power, trying to push power in cars that don't really need it. You know, when Renault Sport models formula in general has always been about a decent power plant and a light, capable chassis. So when people are pushing, you know, mad horsepower, like double the horsepower that chassis are made for, like I did a video on a 172 or it's a 182 phase 2 with a Megane engine in it. Don't get me wrong, that thing was mental, but that thing was trying to kill him as well. You know, 280 horsepower and like at over double the torque. You know, this chassis, it was just pulling him all over the road, and it was such an intense drive. And even the guy that done the video, you know, he was shaking afterwards because the car is so visceral and so angry. It just seemed like I wanted to kill him at every single waking moment. Right guys, so I'm going to end the video there. I hope you enjoyed the content as per usual. Like I say, this is a new format for me, so let me know if you're enjoying this sort of content by leaving a thumbs up and rating on this video. If you've got a Renault Sport that you want to bring on the channel that you think I'll enjoy, I need a Renault 5, I need a V6 Clio, I need all of the variations possible. So either drop down in the comments and let me know, or send me a message on my Instagram. Massive shout out to Adam for lending me the car, and I can't wait to see what he does with it, because like I say, he's going to do some restoration stuff to it and get it back to its former glory. Well guys, so I'm going to end the video there. I hope you enjoyed the content as per usual. Make sure you leave a like rating on this content. Let me know if you're enjoying this sort of thing. Subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell notification to find your way back for any future content. And I'll catch you in the next one.